What is up, my gaggle geeks, and welcome to this amazing time that I'm going to get to spend in Dreamworks campus. I am here at the main entrance area, about to get ready for the tour. So let me just give you a look at everything that we have here. We have this beautiful couch, trolls band together. Look at all of these amazing designs, Dreamworks characters, my favorites, How to Train Your Dragon.
There's an island that's always perpetual thing. This is meant to be fun, so. Costume when they get started. And then here's a big tradition with how the movie normally looks, which is meant to be like an interview, like what do we call it, Bop on Top.
When it comes to being in a sequel of a already beloved franchise, what are you doing to try to move the needle forward as far as the technical side, but also with the story and characters?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's definitely a question we ask ourselves. Like, how do we evolve this? And definitely at the core, the spine of this is the characters themselves. How are they evolving? How are they growing? And in this one, we actually see Poppy and Branch, who were at odds and opposites in Trolls 1, have actually become a couple.
But how do you strike the balance of humor for adults and kids to love?
Yeah, that's important. That's important. I mean, we make these movies, we go, they're absolutely for everyone. Or movies for humans, that's what we call it. So I think to find those moments, even within a single scene, is definitely a big value of ours.
Yeah, I mean, there's the joke that the kids are definitely going to get, and then there's the zinger behind it that goes to the adult level, and that's really when I think it's firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
Well, I love the animation. I love the style of how all these trolls look when it comes to just the felt and how you're utilizing like water with water beads instead. What were some of the aesthetic materials that maybe didn't make it in this film that was very cool?
That didn't make it. I mean, I'd say most of them did. As you can see, the worlds are so vast and so different.
I think we probably would want more costume changes.
We did want more
Yes.
costume changes. For Velvet Veneer specifically.
Yeah.
We loved the costume changes. It was part of their characters, but that was one thing that we had to kind of pull back on as far as levels of complexity in the movie.
Yeah, like we determined, like, we can't move that rope because that's not very important, but
Yeah.
we're going to use it anyway.
But really, there weren't that many limitations.
Yeah.
You know, the team is so smart here. We say what we want, and they find a way to get that.
Yeah, by like what's really important, like landing that gag, landing that character moment, that emotion, and then from there we can scale back on all the extravagance that everybody had planned in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right. Who is your favorite boy band?
That's a good one. I say the Bee Gees.
I'm going to say NSYNC.
Oh, that's a good answer. Hey, Justin's a big fan of Bee Gees.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's a deep cut.
And they're also a family band, too. Like, there's a certain kind of, which we talk about in the film, like this idea of blood harmony. You know, that there's a certain alchemy, that family who sing together, that really creates this magic trick.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks.
it.
Nice to meet you.
What were some of the more painstaking elements of making this? What maybe took the longest, or which had the more complicated technical side of it?
Well, I gotta say, Mount Regis was probably one of the most massive technical undertakings at the studio. We literally were, with the scale of the city, breaking the rules of physics in terms of what a computer is capable of calculating within the space that we've actually created. So we made a city, you know, based on Ruben's designs, and the city was so large that the tiniest of characters like Tiny Diamond were actually disintegrating in the scene because the scope of the city couldn't actually calculate something that small.
Sounds like some Christopher Nolan's.
It ended up being that.
It turns out that some very simple designs turn out to be the most complex
Yes.
technical challenges. One of them was we have a cloud landscape, but of course the clouds are all made out of fiber. You can imagine it's a bazillion fibers to render, and our little characters are felted walking through a landscape of just millions of fibers, and that was a huge challenge. Yeah.
Rhonda too, the character was pretty huge
Yes.
in terms of her technical difficulty because as we were talking about earlier, she's both a character and a location. So there were moments where, you know, you'd see her running and we'd like say, oh, we want the door open here and we want to see the character here. And we'd hear like, oh, but we can't look in the door because the location isn't actually in there, and we'd have to come up with a way to make it all look like it belongs. And so she was challenging, but I think a very worthwhile challenge. We're so happy and excited with how Rhonda came out.
Yeah.
Animation, it's such an art form that takes so much time, so much effort, and I've often heard when animators are working on these characters that they often put a part of themselves in them. So which character are you the most like from Trolls, and how so?
I feel like I'm not grumpy enough to be Branch, but I feel like there's so much that I identify with him. You know, especially in this film, being the youngest of the brothers, because I identify with that very much.
And you do have a falsetto of gold.
I do.
Yeah.
Later, I'll do a little something for you.
No one shadow the diamond.
I also identify, though, I think very much with Floyd, because I always grew up. I was always I felt like more sensitive. I think especially a lot of artists can identify, you know, with that sort of thing. I felt like I was, you know, loud noises or even emotions and that sort of thing, and I always felt a lot. You know what I mean? I felt a lot.
Turns out to be your superpower.
Yeah, exactly. You know, which I now turned into a job. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like I definitely identify with him, you know, in the film.
I really, you know, identify, I think, with the character of Crimp in this film. She's just so like integral and like trying to figure out all the technical detail. And then she's like got a schematic for the, you know, the shoulder pads and all of these things. She's got a little notepad and a little a marker in her hair, and I don't know. I just love her frenetic energy of trying to get things done with all of the chaos that's happening.
I would say I think sometimes I relate maybe a little too much to Poppy and her optimism, and not that it's always a bad thing, but it can bowl over real emotions that need to happen. And so I think sometimes I get a little overly positive and like, we can do it, anything's possible, guys.
We like that too.
We like that.
It can be a good thing. It can be a good thing.
I relate to many of the characters, and what I relate to most in the movie is these different scenes that show their dynamics and usually the dysfunction and how they come back together, because I feel like those are moments that are fairly authentic to anybody who has siblings. So like they're rehearsing, but then all of their past comes back to like you know, break up their rehearsal. And there's still this like, I'm the oldest brother, I'm the leader, or I'm older, and almost like there's an assumed hierarchy in this family that was there from the beginning, but it's so authentic to the real world.
One more favorite dance move that was animated in this.
Dance move. That's a good question. I do love, just because it's an emotional moment, I do love Branch begrudgingly starting to dance with his brothers.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite animated shots in the film, and one of my favorite moments for Branch. But in terms of actual dance move, I think a lot of stuff Velvet and Veneer do that kind of defies, you know, like they don't have any bones or anything, so you can kind of do, you know, a lot. I think a lot of stuff that they did, I really enjoyed.
Same, I love Velvet and Veneer because it's like those characters are perfect for animation, where in animation we can do anything we can imagine, and they dance in a way that humans wouldn't naturally be able to. They might do a twist, but it's a twist from their pelvis all the way up to their neck.
I love that moment where Branch is getting pulled in. You actually watch, the animation is beautiful because you watch him go begrudgingly up onto stage, and over the course of maybe 30 seconds, he goes from just, and then he's kind of into it, and then he's fully committed into it, and the world expands out. That's just a beautiful moment.
Yeah, I agree. Same for me. It's how much character and feeling you guys portrayed in that moment it blows me away every time I see it. So it's fantastic.
Thank you so much. Congrats again.
Thank you.
When it came to like finding the right needle drop and making the music the most impactful for the story, what is the process of that?
Yeah, it's definitely a process of speaking with all the producers and the filmmakers about what the song needs to say story-wise, you know, and then once the song is sort of chosen, and all the songs that are chosen around it, maybe in the context of a medley, you know, how do you thread that together in a really fun, exciting way? And I mean, one thing about this movie is we really wanted it to feel like you were in a concert. There are big moments centered around concerts of in this movie that the mix and all the colors you're seeing on screen, all the characters coming together, the families at hand. You know, you really are having like a blast at a concert for this movie. And you know, for those that go and see it in the theater, which we highly suggest, it's mixed loud. You know, so you can really feel that bass. You can really feel the kick drums and the, you know, all the excitement, all the different vocal layers. You know, it's a beautiful film. It's very colorful and it's fun. It's just a lot of fun.
Is it a different stage that you're in versus when you're in a film where like they've already edited a lot of it, or it's a live action?
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, especially on Joe's side, because the songs are really from a formative stage. From a score perspective, it's more similar, but I still like to get started early on, at least to just have the score ideas to start to develop early in the process, so it's really part of the fabric of the film.
And do you incorporate the previous two films when you're going into another installment, or is it we want to make this feel completely new and immersive?
Well, so the previous film, we really was about genres, different musical genres, and Poppy and Branch are part of the Pop Trolls. So we developed this language for the Pop Trolls that is centered around these very plucky synthesizer sounds. And so this movie is really all in the Pop Trolls world. And so those sounds are really sprinkled throughout the score, sort of anytime we're in their world, that's part of the language.
And is there any song in particular that is your favorite that's in this film?
God, it changes all the time.
I'll say that I think this new song, Better Place, that comes out soon, is definitely my favorite. And it shows up a couple times in the movie. It also, elements of that Teddy used sprinkled throughout the score. So once you finally hear the song in its full, you know, fruition, you've been hearing it all along the way, you just didn't know it.
Yep.
And it really comes around in a big way, and it's a song you know, about bringing family together and the importance of family and the joy of that, and celebrating each other. That when you hear Better Place, it makes an impact for sure. It's just excellent.
I could easily say Better Place, but It Takes Two is also just a great song, and yeah, I've spent some nights lying awake just sort of listening to the chord progression in my head. It's a great track.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much.
Thank you.